So I know you've been busy down there, long time involved with this tournament, and you wear a lot of different hats, but obviously still involved in putting this massive event together down there. Let's talk some numbers. I mean, this is really the biggest high school tournament co-ed in the country, and once again, you guys have had a ton of teams down there playing this week. It's been a great week, but you know, how many teams partake in this, and really how difficult is this to sort of get off the ground from a behind-the-scenes standpoint?
Well, you're upwards of 70 teams in this. There's been times where there's been more than 80. You know, it is a difficult venture. I mean, I was the main person doing the scheduling for a while, and now I'm not. It is you know, when you're trying to put matchups together and make competitive brackets, and it can be difficult because you have teams coming from all over the place, and you might not know what the competitive level of certain teams is. But you know, you just do your best, and I think one of the things that the tournament committee has always been cognizant of is trying to make a positive experience for all of the teams that come in. You know, just get some competitive games, even if you lose, you know, both of your games that you play. You know, just come in and enjoy getting away as a team, and enjoy the venue, and enjoy the Wildwoods in Cape County during the couple of days that they come down here.
Checking in right now with Brian Cunniff of CoastSportsToday.com, also involved in the Boardwalk Basketball Classic, which wraps up today. It's a, 6-day tournament, Brian? And you guys kicked off with that special event before the holiday, which I know you've been doing in recent years. That event used to be, if my memory serves, sort of the last day of the event, but that battle on the boards. How much fun is that to sort of kick off this week of hoops and to do it with so many local Cape May County teams?
Yeah, the battle at the boards actually starts the event now. You're right, Mike. I mean, when it was first started, it was there were times where it was actually held New Year's Eve, but now it starts the event, and it's usually held on the 23rd, right before the Christmas break. And the great thing that the committee did this year was there was really a lot of local matchups in this, and a lot of the Cape May County teams involved. You had you know, Lower Cape May playing Wildwood in girls basketball. You had Middle Township playing Lower in boys basketball, and then of course the big Wildwood Catholic boys game to cap it all off. And I can tell you that the attendance was up markedly this year because of the certainly partly because of those great matchups.
We're going to check in actually with Dave DeWeese in just a few minutes here, and his team is in action later today. But, you know, you go from that first day of the tournament to this final day, and you still have some local teams playing and playing for bracket championships. Yeah. Wildwood and both Wildwood Catholic playing later today on the boys' side at least. So it's sort of got to be nice to have maybe the local teams vying for some of that hardware at the end.
Yeah, you know, I mean, obviously you can't guarantee anything. I mean, those teams are in different brackets, and they have to win their first round games, and they both played, you know, pretty competitive games. You know, that Wildwood Catholic game last night, the final score might not look like it was that close, but Montgomery Blair gave them all they could handle. You know, and then Wildwood, you know, they were up comfortably at halftime, and then they got a little push from Phoenixville before they won it. But, yeah, from a tournament standpoint, it's great on the boys' side to end the tournament with a back-to-back games of Wildwood playing Mass Community Charter of Philadelphia, and then Wildwood Catholic playing one of the Philadelphia Catholic League's blue bloods, so to speak, and Father Judge in back-to-back games to end the tournament. And that Judge Wildwood Catholic game really has a chance to be a classic. Judge is 8-0, and of course we know how good Wildwood Catholic is. They are 5-0. And that should be an outstanding matchup. And the Wildwood game is at 4, and then the Wildwood Catholic Father Judge game is scheduled at 5:45.
Checking in right now with Brian Cunniff of CoastSportsToday.com, also obviously involved in the organization of the Boardwalk Basketball Classic at the Wildwoods Convention Center, that week-long tournament that wraps up today. Brian, at least it seemed to me in looking at the schedule that, and maybe I'm wrong here, but maybe more teams than ever, sort of out-of-state teams, Maryland teams, Pennsylvania teams, Delaware teams partaking in this. And it's some of the names that I've seen before, but also maybe some new ones. And what sort of feedback does the staff down there get from some of these teams coming from out of state, maybe staying over in Wildwood for the night? They obviously have to enjoy the experience because you're seeing some of the same schools come back year after year after year.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's the good thing. I think one of the things that's happened, I think there's a word of mouth thing, and I think where that's really been more evident is most evident is in the Delaware area. I mean, a few years ago, I think we had maybe one team from Delaware, and they liked it so much that old expression, they went back and told their friends, and now there's 4 or 5 teams coming from Delaware every year, and well, let's face it, the tournament wouldn't be what it is without the venue, and I know you've been there, and some of the listeners have been there, but if you haven't been there, it's almost like a college setting. You have the stadium seating. Each side can seat about 1,800 people, it's very professionally done with the scorers table and the big courts with the logos in it of the Boardwalk Basketball Classic, and the venue is just tremendous. And if not for the Wildwoods Convention Center, this event wouldn't be what it is. And the feedback that you get is, teams like to go away. It's a bonding experience for their teams. They get away as a group for a day or two and play a couple basketball games. And I think, again, and I spoke to it earlier, I think teams look at it more for the experience than they do in terms of just the basketball on the floor and wins and losses. And we have a lot of teams that tell us, year after year that, hey, this, no matter what happened down in Wildwood, it made us better as a team going forward. So that's always nice to hear.
I know this is sort of tricky because you've seen so much basketball down there this week. I know you wear a lot of hats. You referee some games, obviously writing a lot of game stories for CoastSportsToday.com. But heading into this final day of the Boardwalk Basketball Classic, has there been a storyline or maybe a matchup or two that sort of jumped off the page, or a game that you got to see in person, either officiating it or maybe on the sideline?
Well, I'll tell you, Mike. One of the most impressive performances really was by Shawnee. They came down here and won 2 games, and if anybody knows the Shawnee program, obviously they're a very, very good program, very well coached by Joe Kessler. But they've been decimated by injuries. I believe they have at least 2 starters out. I know they're 6th man, and there's another kid in there that's injured as well. And they came down here and were awfully impressive against a couple of pretty good teams. And, And I know that one of those kids is out for the year, but I talked briefly to Joe, and he's expecting to get all those other kids back within the next few weeks. And obviously they're very good now, but they are going to be really something when they get as close to completely healthy as they're going to get. But, they were awfully impressive coming down here. And again, right here in Cape May County, this has a chance to be one of the best Wildwood Catholic teams that I've seen. There's so much talent on that team. And they have a great mix of some senior leadership as well as some very talented young kids. We know that Caleb Fields has already verbally committed to Bowling Green. When you look at a couple of their younger guys like a Taj Sweet, there's college players all over their roster. That matchup today against Father Judge, who's 8-0, playing out of the Philadelphia Catholic League, that is going to be some game tonight. That's going to be a high-level high school basketball game.
Yeah, and again, we'll talk more about that one with head coach Dave DeWeese of the Crusaders coming up in just about 5 or 6 minutes or so. Brian, before we let you go, I know you sort of, I don't want to say taking a step back, you're still involved in the tournament, but for years and years and years, you were very heavily involved, and it's so many volunteers that go into this Boardwalk Basketball Classic, and I know you guys almost work round the clock for this week, but it's all for a great cause with the money going right back to the community, right?
It is. The money that's raised all goes to high school, goes to scholarship money, college scholarship money for the graduating seniors at both Wildwood and Wildwood Catholic high schools. And it's so nice to see that money distributed at the end of the year, and the committee, really works tirelessly. The interesting thing about the main committee that works on this is a lot of the people involved have been there since the inception. So you're going back to, I believe it was 1998 was the first year. So, this is the 20th year of the tournament, and, quite a few of the people have been involved since the inception, and it really is a kind of a labor of love. The committee actually meets monthly, pretty much year-round. Like a lot of things, there's a little hiatus in the summer while everybody's real busy down here, but, they'll actually meet right after the tournament, talk about what went well, what didn't, what should we do going forward, and then they'll meet a few times during the spring, and then once September hits, they're actually meeting about every 3 weeks. So And there's a lot of people that do a lot of different things and try to put on a good tournament and create a good experience for the kids and raise some money for the local high school kids going off to college. So I think it's a good win-win all around for everybody involved.
And one final day of the Boardwalk Basketball Classic today. The action gets going in just a little bit and obviously runs through this evening. Brian Cunniff of CoastSportsToday.com, thanks for taking the time this morning, and enjoy the final day of the tournament and then the relaxation that comes with it tomorrow.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, you got it again. That's Brian Cunniff, CoastSportsToday.com.